Greetings, my name is Mr.Bonesworths, and today I will be showing my build for basically blastmine for killer. And for the killer to showcase this, it'll be Death Slinger. Before I go a bit into this, I was actually using this mostly on night beforehand, and had to go through a few iterations with that fine lad, but I've decided to use it for Death Slinger because of the potential that it could bring, and hey, it gives me an excuse to play him in a video now. My goal for this build is to have a blastmine for killer, since it's a fun pick to use as survivor and could do a multitude of things. I was thinking, hey, why doesn't killer have something like that? Well, with these set of picks, you can have close to, if not a better, blastmine. It does, however, require like 3 perks to function at the least, which you can take that as you will, and if that's a good use of resources that you could have on your killer. You know what, this is not really the type of build you always win with, but you have a good time with. That's my goal. Let's go over the add-ons, in that we're not going over the add-ons. Honestly, have some common sense when it comes to your add-ons and you'll be fine. Also, if you really want to be like, hey, is there any I should avoid? There's a few. One that comes to mind is Legion's Human Mixtape, but otherwise you'd be fine. Just use whatever you feel comfortable with or would be strong. Now, going over what the first pick would be, which is Trails of Torment. Trails has the effect of giving you the detectable stats effect, but if it stops, you get a 60-second cooldown, and it highlights gens for survivors if they're not blind. Honestly, you might be like, hey, doesn't that kind of like give you the worst effect for blastmine? Which is, it highlights the gen of which it's on. Do you not want the survivors to know you have this? So on and so forth. Why not put on, for one of these picks, something like Third Seal? And that's a great question, and I have a simple answer. You want them to touch the gen. Touching it is what's going to give its effects. It's like with killer. You want them to know that that gen's getting progress, and you can make them go to it, kick it, waste some time, stun them, blind them, resilient manifest, the whole shebang. So, leading them to that gen, saying, hey, if you don't touch this gen, I'm undetectable, I might be able to sneak up on one of your friends. You also want them to go to it quickly, because most of these have a limited time frame. Well, I shouldn't say most, it's only one of them. And now that will be to our next pick, Dragon's Grip. Dragon's Grip activates after you kick a gen and will stay active for the next 30 seconds. If a survivor touches that gen within 30 seconds, they will become exposed for 60. A pretty strong effect. But it has a large cooldown of 80 seconds. To point out an easy comparison, it's the same length of a cooldown of oppression. But actually, in totality, Dragon's Grip is probably the largest, or one of the largest in the game for cooldowns, because it's a pretty strong effect and you need to balance it out somehow. And it also gives a secondary effect, which is it makes the survivors scream and reveals the location for 4 seconds. This is important for our next perk, which is Overcharge. Overcharge has also 2 neat abilities, and it's the only perk that technically does have a cooldown, because well, the rest of them do. And it's a pretty decent effect. So for its first effect, it makes it so if the survivor misses a skill check, it does a 4% additional loss. But it's only for its difficult skill check. Basically, if the survivor taps the gen after you kick it, for the first time, it applies a difficult skill check. The skill check, if missed, does the 14%, which is pretty decent, especially paired with Huntress Lullaby. For its second effect, when you kick the gen as well, it starts regressing at 85% speed, but then after 30 seconds gets up to its top, which is 130%. This is basically a pretty good effect even after Dragon's Grip gone. Like, once this is gone, you have to wait a bit, but you can keep kicking generators, you can keep getting that difficult skill check and the progression going. And keep applying pressure that way. Gen defense is your secondary goal of this build, so you don't want to quite lose that. But you want to be careful of which these cooldowns go away. Because if you get trails, you don't want to just kick one random gen, even if it has like 5%. And then just like, I have Trails of Torment and Dragon's Grip on a gen that's going to be completely regressed in about now. Now to explain like the really good synergies with these picks. Because honestly the fourth one I grew Machine Learning because I like that pick as well. But these are the blastmine aspect of this build. For one, making the trails like be a leader for Dragon's Grip, and hell, it kind of works with Machine Learning because I explained in my minus video that, hey, if you make people go to the gen you want and they stay on it, you can make it easier to apply Machine Learning. But I digress. Having them know exactly where you want to go, like having highlight, you have the choice element of, hey, do I let them keep the undetectable status effect and make that gen stop regressing even faster? Or do I stop it early and get hit with Dragon's Grip? Of course, it's going to be surprise element, because I doubt even on your first try using it, like on gen, that the survivor's going to get there within 30 seconds. They're kind of slow if they don't know that overcharge is on there. So say second time you kick a gen and Dragon's Grip activate, you can cause them to scream, and this plays into its secondary effect of Dragon's Grip. Which, why I highlight the second effect is, it does something a little sneaky that I don't think the developers intended, and makes it so that they fail the overcharge skill check automatically. Like, they can't complete it. I don't think there's any way to, because you scream and you get off the gen. It's almost like what Deadman Switch does with Pain Res, the scare trick. It forces them off and it activates it. So you cause the survivor to be exposed, scream, and lose more progress on the gen. I'd say that's pretty close to what blastmine does itself. It has a longer charge wait than just 30 seconds, but you catch my drift. As for why I put Machine Learning, it's basically a failsafe. If they get rid of your trails, like they go to that gen, they waited out Dragon's Grip, they hit the skill check for overcharge, and you don't come back in time, you get rewarded for getting them to that gen. A 10% speed bonus to Death Slinger feels great, and being able to undetectably sneak up behind a corner, then aim your gun, get someone, and then quickly catch up, because 30 seconds, if you're in chase as well, is a lot. And not to mention, it doesn't go away if you down someone, and you can still use that 10% while going to the hook. It just feels amazing, it's comfy. I could have possibly found a better pick to punish a survivor if they go to the gen you want them to, but this is by far my favorite to use. As for weaknesses, other than just waiting out, there's one perk that can cancel out these two synergies, which is Calm Spirit. And it's been more common lately because of Ultimate Weapon, a very good tracking perk that is meta. And what it can do is, one, make it so you don't know someone is exposed, and make it so they don't automatically fail the overcharge skill check. Of course, if you come back and you're just like, hey, that person's on the gen and I saw the cooldown go away on my hub, I think they might be exposed. And of course, this has potentially no endgame pressure other than 30 seconds into it with Machine Learning. But hey, I did say this wasn't exactly the strongest. This is a build if you're looking for trying something new, if you like the feeling you get when you blastmine a killer as a survivor, and so on. If I were to say, if you were to change anything, I could recommend, instead of Machine Learning, have claustrophobia, because that does a 30-second cooldown, but gets rid of windows, one of Death Slayer's weaknesses, I would say. And if you want, you can use this on Bubba so you don't get the detriment of windows. Just like so many things you have to consider if you use it on other killers. And I would not recommend using trails on a loud killer such as Singularity. Hey, this is my build though, and I did this video a bit differently. I'm still experimenting, same with my builds in the sense, and I will possibly get another Lies of P episode out, or another build for Michael, Pig, Doctor, so on and so forth. I have a lot of ideas in the background for killers. I might do a Survivor one soon as well,